Towards a New Socialism. Section: Economic Cybernetics in Chile. One of the most interesting experiments with computerized planning and control of the economy was undertaken in Chile under the Allende government in the years 1972 to 73. The system was designed by Stafford Beer and is described in his book The Brain of the Firm. Beer's objective was to provide real-time decentralized control of the economy. Since his system provides a practical example of the general type of regulation mechanism we are proposing, it may be useful to outline its characteristics. With the conventional statistical methods available to Western governments, economic statistics are often many months out of date by the time they arrive on the desks of decision makers. In consequence, decisions may be made to try to resolve a crisis some months after the crisis actually occurred. Since the policy instruments available to the government are also slow-acting, decisions may be taken whose effects are the opposite of what was intended. After the stock market crash of 1987, the British government feared a recession and in 1988 introduced tax cuts. By the time these came into effect, demand was already accelerating anyway. So by 1989, the result was accelerating inflation. Lags in the availability of data meant that completely inappropriate action was taken, although in this case there was also a strong ideological commitment to tax cuts, regardless of the macroeconomic conditions. Such perverse effects, in which feedback induces worse oscillations in the system, can be avoided if controllers are provided with up-to-date information and have the means to take immediate appropriate action. In Chile, a computer network was established to do this in only 4 months, to the great surprise of skeptics who had argued that such a network would take years to set up. The task was accomplished with the computer technology of the early 70s, and the very limited telecommunications capacity of a poor country like Chile. A combination of microwave and telex links joined all the key industrial centers to computers in the capital. Within these limits, it was possible to provide the government with economic information that was no more than a day old. More modern equipment could do better. Information was presented in iconic form. Large screens in an ops room displayed annotated flow graphs of the interactions between subsections of the economy. The graphics displays avoided using figures. The magnitudes of the flows between different sectors were indicated by the widths of the lines flowing between them. Industries and sectors were shown as blocks with bar graphs inside them telling what proportion of the industry's capacity was being used. The room provided seating for 7 people, this being the largest number who can effectively participate in a discussion. Large buttons on the arms of the chairs could be used to control the displays and highlight different features. The notion of the ops room was taken from wartime experience in air defense. As in war, real-time information was displayed for immediate decisions. Decisions could be tested using computer simulations, which showed what the effects would be if a given course of action were taken. In the event it was used like a wartime headquarters in the struggle to break the anti-government boycotts imposed by private lorry companies. The computer network enabled the government to mobilize all its available transport resources to keep goods flowing. It was intended that an ops room would be provided in each industry, and indeed in each plant. Sophisticated statistical programs analyzed the data flowing up from lower levels of the system to search for any significant changes. Human decision makers were insulated from information overload, and just presented with significant data on which decisions were needed. The ops room for a plant would be provided with warnings as soon as anything unusual occurred. If the computers detected a crisis, they alerted the ops room and started a clock running. If the ops room had not responded effectively within a certain time period, the next higher ops room in the tree was alerted. This gave each unit the freedom to act locally within its competence without endangering the viability of the social organism. It was envisaged that the ops room at the factory level would be run by local workers' committees. The democratic presumption was that modern visual and computing aids would allow people to manage their factories without sophisticated training. With the bloody coup that established Pinochet in power and prepared the way for the Friedmanite monetarist economic experimentation in Chile, all this was swept away. The ops room perished with Allende and democracy in the burnt-out ruins of the presidential palace. Where these targets are to come from is another matter. We have made some relevant points already in Chapter 5, and we'll have more to say in Chapters 8 and 13 in particular. End of Chapter 6.